for comedy, a huge plus. For Rhoda's life, maybe she took some hits that she could have, kept not put her foot in it. But for the sake of comedy, there's one of the longest laughs. In fact, I think it was one of the longest laughs on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, not counting chuckles. But up until that time, Jim and Alan used to tell me they had to cut the laugh down. Was a really interesting surprise laugh. I love those because it wasn't really funny on its face, except because of the relationship. Rhoda was, I think the show is called My Brother's Keeper. And the wonderful director, Bob Moore, played a guy who, Phyllis's brother. And she fixed him up with Mary. But then Mary liked him, but then suddenly Rhoda and he clicked. And they were spending time together. And Phyllis is getting more and more uptight. But I wanted Ben to be with you. And da-da-da-da-da. And finally there's a party, one of Mary's bad parties. Phyllis gets drunk. And she confronts Rhoda and says, Mary is who I wanted. I wanted Ben to be interested in her. And she said, but if it has to be, I guess you will marry my brother. And I said, I'm not going to marry your brother. And she said, and then Phyllis in her drawing, why not? He's educated, he's handsome, he's accomplished. And then I say, he's gay. And we talked long and hard about would it be, Jay said, do you think you should lower your voice, say he's gay, like let her know tenderly? I said, no. It's like he's saying he's a Jesuit, or he's celibate, or he's moving to Europe. He's unattained, he's married. You'd say it like that. Like, I'm not going to marry that guy because he's married. I mean, or he's whatever he is. He's a priest. But it was just that. He's gay. And then the line that we thought would be funny was her rejoinder was, oh, Rhoda, I'm so relieved. Like, that better gay than married to dumb, awful Rhoda in Phyllis's world. So we thought that was a joke. It was written by the wonderful Treva Silverman. And the people screamed. They screamed for a minute when I said he's gay, because it was a surprise. They didn't know he was gay. But it all makes sense that, in retrospect of the show, that, and it was I guess it was an early reference. This was in the early 70s. And it wasn't in any embarrassment. And that was Rhoda. It was from her sensibility. And I always loved that moment. I thought it was great. And they said it was so long, they had to cut it because the audience at home can't sit for a minute while the studio audience is laughing. It doesn't work. And also, it gave them more time for the show, because often the shows were so good, they had to cut out a lot of gold just to get it into the 24 minutes or 22 it's probably far less now in the half-hour field. But we used to shoot 30 minutes, but they used to always want to come in shorter because they had to cut it to 24. Sometimes they had to lift whole scenes. But that was one of those laughs that was out of pure character. And that's the way Jim and Alan and all that writing team, Ed Weinberger, Treva Silverman, Charlotte Brown, it was just, they wrote that way. They wrote from the idea that it was a play rather than a bunch of jokes strung together or vulgarity. And in those days, we couldn't be vulgar. There was a real line of what you could say and not.